Do I look evil? Watch me closely. I might do anything. I might come after you with an axe. I might kidnap a princess. I might blow up the whole planet. You just never know how evil I might be, apparently. I mean, you can see that looking at me, can't you? Can you? You've seen people who are scarred like me in movies and TV. Almost every one of them is either evil or pathetic. There's Voldemort, Darth Vader, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I mean, these are my people. Every one of them scarred and scary. My name is Lise Deguire. I'm a psychologist, author, and childhood burn survivor. When I was 4 years old, my family took a vacation up to the beautiful Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire. It was our first night on vacation and time for dinner. And my mother rummaged around the cabin looking for lighter fluid, and she thought she found some. So we stood on the porch together, my mother and me, her little 4-year-old standing right next to her. And she took that lighter fluid and tried to start this fire, and there was a giant eruption of flame that enveloped her and me. My father was just able to see me through that wall of flame, and he ran behind me, and he grabbed me, and he threw me in the lake. Saved my life. But at the end of that, I was left very badly burned. I was burned on 2/3 of my body, 3rd-degree burn, which is the worst kind. The fire burned away my lip, my lower lip, my chin, my neck. It left my face fused to my chest, and my arms fused to my sides. And I was covered from head to my feet in bright red burn scars. Hundreds, thousands of doctors and nurses and therapists saved my life and labored over me over time. They debrided me, they stabilized me, skin grafted me, reconstructed my body, and gradually improved my appearance. All told, I've had about 75 procedures between surgeries and laser treatments, and I look a lot better than I used to. But folks, it is not like the movies. Once you are severely burned, you are severely burned, and that's how it is. You might think that the worst part about being burned for me has been that medical part that I was sharing with you, and that was awful. It was excruciatingly painful and really scary and time-consuming and expensive, and still goes on to this day, really, really hard. But actually, the worst part about being burned for me has been social. When I was a little girl, I was routinely mocked, bullied, and tormented on my way to school, after school, at summer camp, you name it. When there were sports teams to be picked in school, I was always the last one left. And I really can't blame them because I'm terrible at sports. But you would also be terrible at sports if you spent a lot of your childhood in the hospital, let me tell you. And it was embarrassing and humiliating, and it made me feel just awful. As I grew older, I was bullied less, and there weren't any more sports teams to be picked, thank God. But I had a new problem, which was that I was really interested in boys, and they were not interested in me. It's hard for people, I guess, to see the person inside sometimes. But it was hard. It was hard to find dates. It was hard to get to the prom or find a boyfriend or anything, really. I did eventually find love, I'm happy to tell you. But even now, as a mature woman, if I go out of the house like this, with my scars exposed, or wearing shorts, or God forbid I'm in a bathing suit, I am stared at every single time. And that makes me feel bad. It makes me feel really terrible. But there's a lot of prejudice against people like me who look different. And I ask you, where do you think that comes from? So here's a clue. When I was a teenager, the movie Return of the Jedi came out. It's the 3rd Star Wars movie, and we were all so excited. Everybody loves Star Wars. And I can still see myself in that movie theater with my friends from high school, all of us in a row, sharing our popcorn and our snacks and our sodas, waiting for the movie to begin. And it was awesome. I loved it. Great. Until the end. So, at the end of Return of the Jedi, the evil Darth Vader, whom everybody hates, let's be clear, he is the worst person in this entire universe, right? So the evil Darth Vader is injured and he's dying. And he's lying on the ground and he said to his son Luke, "Luke, please remove my helmet. I'd like to see you with my own eyes before I die." No one has ever seen Darth Vader without that black helmet on. So Luke bends down and he starts to kind of pull off Darth Vader's helmet. And as his helmet is lifted off his face is revealed. And he is scarred, he's disfigured, he's been burned. And a gasp went over the whole audience at the sight of his burned face. And I gasped too, but for a very different reason, because I'm like, wait a second, that's Darth Vader's backstory? He's been burned and that like turned him evil? What? So Darth Vader was the first disfigured evil villain I met on screen, but by no means the last. The next year, the movie Nightmare on Elm Street came out, featuring Freddy Krueger. Freddy was also burned, and I guess the experience turned him into a homicidal psychopathic maniac. Then there was The Phantom of the Opera. That came out a couple years later, the most successful Broadway musical of all time. But who was the Phantom? The Phantom was also disfigured from some cause, we don't know what, and I guess so like poorly adjusted to this situation that he wears his iconic mask all the time so no one can see him. And of course he is an evil, psychopathic, homicidal maniac. And then there was Disney. Now I want to be clear, I love Disney. I have listened to Disney music and read Disney books and seen Disney films all my life, and I love Disney. My issue is that Disney does not appear to love me. And I'm going to give you just 2 examples. When my little girl Julia was a toddler, her favorite movie was The Lion King. And everybody loved The Lion King, right? The beautiful songs by Elton John and the animals on the savannah. It was gorgeous. But there was this one lion, and it was Simba's uncle. And he plots to kill Simba's father, and he does kill Simba's father. And he plots to kill Simba, and he turns the whole Pride Land into a wasteland. And that evil lion's name was? Scar. His name was Scar. And I thought, what is my little girl learning to associate with scars? And what is she going to think about? My scars. A couple years later, there was The Hunchback of Notre Dame. My other girl, Anna, my other little girl at that point, was watching that movie. Now, The Hunchback of Notre Dame features Quasimodo, and Quasimodo is not evil. Quasimodo is, however, pathetic. Quasi is very badly disfigured, and I guess is considered so heinously disfigured that no one should have to look at him. So they hide him in the towers of the Notre Dame Cathedral, where his only friends are the gargoyles. And he's very lonely, as we would be too under that situation. And Quasi is very, very unhappy. And one day he decides he's going to go out into the streets of Paris, but he places a bag over his head because he's learned that no one should have to look at him. And he goes out in Paris, he has a great time, he makes friends, until at some point that bag is lifted off his head by accident, and his face is revealed, and the sight of his disfigurement causes a riot. Now, these kinds of depictions of scarred people as being either evil or pathetic are happening all the time, every year. You may have never noticed them, but I promise you, now that we've talked about it, you will see it everywhere. These films are spreading the message, consciously and unconsciously, that you should be afraid of people who look different and wary of them. And they are teaching children, whether they mean to or not, they are teaching little kids to be afraid of people who look different like me. Is it any wonder that there is a lot of prejudice against people who do look different? So let's talk about that for a moment. According to James Partridge, who's a pioneer in this area, approximately 1% of the world's population is disfigured from some cause. You can be disfigured from birthmarks, cleft palates, craniofacial conditions. These are things that happen from birth. Or you can acquire a disfigurement, like I did, from burns, a car accident, cancer treatment, things like that. So 1% of the world's population, and you think, well, I guess that's not that much. Maybe I don't know anybody who's disfigured. And maybe you don't. And maybe you do, but you don't know it. Because a lot of people who look different hide it. They wear heavy makeup on their face, maybe, or they never go out with their arms exposed like I have tonight. Some people even hide themselves away because they don't like how they're treated when they go out. A study done by Changing Faces surveyed 800 disfigured people, and they asked them what their lives are like in public. And they reported being bullied, being mocked, inappropriate questioning. They reported people avoided them in public as if they were contagious. They reported job discrimination, social media trolling, and worst of all, 1/3 of them reported having been the victim of a hate crime. It is not easy to look different in this world. So, maybe you don't know someone who's disfigured, but I will tell you who you definitely know. You know Voldemort, Darth Vader, and Quasimodo. You know them. You've seen those images all your life, spreading this message that scarred people are scary. Is it any wonder that there's such prejudice against people who look different? So, I do have a little good news. We know something that we can do to help. There was a study done by Bellici at the University of Pennsylvania, and they did the following. They took a bunch of people, they measured their level of prejudice against disfigured faces. Then for 1 week and 1 week only, they did the following. Twice a day, they texted them a photo of a disfigured face along with a brief positive story of that person doing something good. So, photo of a disfigured face, that person helped somebody across the street. Photo of a disfigured face, that person helped somebody pay for their groceries. Just 10 stories, all in all. And at the end of the week, they measured their level of prejudice against disfigured faces, and they found it had gone way down. That's the power of positive story. Positive stories open up your minds. Positive stories open up your hearts and make you think, oh, that person might be kind of cool to know. So too is getting to actually meet somebody with disfigurement. Once you meet somebody with disfigurement, you think, oh, they're just like me. I don't need to be afraid of this person. I might even like to be friends with this person, actually. Unfortunately, Hollywood is not putting out positive stories at all about people who look like me. By the way, just clue into all the Halloween movies at some point. Hollywood is not helping us. They are continuing to put out negative stories about people who look different. And my friends, the time has come for this to stop. The problem has been lack of public awareness that this is even a problem, and therefore lack of public pressure to change. Now we know, on the bright side, that Hollywood is capable of great change when they feel the need to do so. The representations of people of color, for example, have advanced a lot over the decades. I am not saying it's perfect, but we have come a long way from Gone with the Wind to Moonlight. So too have the representations of LGBTQ people. Again, it's not perfect, but nowadays we have Brokeback Mountain and Call Me By Your Name. However, the representations of people who look like me have not advanced at all, but it is time for it to happen. And it can. First of all, Hollywood can just stop making these stories about scarred people being evil and pathetic. It's been done, it's trite, it's prejudice, and it's doing harm. It's boring. Let's be done with it. And we, the general public, when we see these depictions, we can turn them off, walk away, and demand better. So, do you know someone who is disfigured, who can prove to you that disfigured people are not evil or pathetic? Hello. My name is Lise Deguire. I am here to show you a scarred person who is hardworking, kind, loved, not pathetic, and shockingly law-abiding. I have never chased a camper with an axe. I have never kidnapped a Disney princess. Not even once. In fact, I am a member of a community, a proud community of people with visible difference who are sick and tired of being portrayed as evil or pathetic. Please remember us the next time you see one of these depictions. Turn it off, walk away, demand better. Teach your children, please, that they don't need to be afraid of us. Scarred people are just people who've gone through something really hard and survived it. Scarred people are not scary. Scarred people are not evil, and they are not pathetic. Scarred people are survivors, and scarred people, just like you, we're just people. Thank you.